Hey everybody, it's Ed. All right, this video we are going to talk about Elvis movie soundtracks, but we're not going to be talking about RCA Victor regular release Elvis movie soundtracks. In other words, the albums that were released during Elvis's lifetime that came out when each movie came out, whether it was an LP, long playing record, or it was an EP 45 with 5 or 6 songs on it, or maybe even less depending on the movie. For example, Love Me Tender. Love Me Tender did not come out as a long playing record, 33 RPM long playing record. Love Me Tender was released as a 4-song, 45 RPM EP, extended play record. So, where am I going with this? Well, I wanted to break down the FTD releases of Elvis movie soundtracks that have been released so far. And what do I mean by FTD releases? Well, for those of you who may not know, the Elvis fan club, I don't even know if you can call it the Elvis fan club, but it used to, it started off basically as an exclusive label for the Elvis fan club, but it's grown into a little bit more than that. Essentially, the FTD releases are primarily available through the website for Graceland, which is shopgraceland.com. You can find them on shopelvis.com and I believe also shopelvisuk.com and other shops across the a pond from the United States that also sell these, because these albums are pressed in, I believe, the EU mostly, and they come to America as imports. And so far, there have been a total of 43 FTD albums released, and it is a mix of studio albums, soundtrack albums, and concert albums. But today we are going to focus on the movie soundtracks. Now, according to my list, it looks like that there are 15 that have been, 14 that have not been released as of yet. But we're going to look at soundtracks that were released for the FTDs. So let us just forge ahead and let us go. Now, Love Me Tender, like I mentioned at the beginning, was Elvis's very first movie. And so far, we do not have an FTD soundtrack for that. There is one soundtrack, which is Blue Hawaii, which was the very first FTD LP that was released back in 2009. However, I do not own that. That is the only FTD album I do not own. All right, but then going in order, with the exception of Blue Hawaii, everything else that has been released as of now as a movie soundtrack, we have Jailhouse Rock, Volume 1, but they don't call this Volume 1. The only reason I'm going to call it Volume 1 is because then a few years later, they came out with Jailhouse Rock Volume 2. So we have 2 LP soundtracks for Jailhouse Rock. There's another album, another movie in here where they also did that. Now, this album was a curiosity when it was first released, because usually the FTD LPs come as a double LP. This was the first and only time that FTD released an album where it was only a single LP. And this one happened to be numbered limited edition, number 1866. So unique in its own right. And this one was pressed on clear vinyl. So there you have that. All right. And then next up, Elvis Gi Blues. And again, we're going to say that this is Volume 1, only because then a couple of years or a few years later, they then came out with this, Elvis Cafe Europa, which is basically Gi Blues Volume 2. So then we go to Kid Galahad, which this is my latest FTD album that I have obtained just last week, finally, after months and months and months of waiting. All right, and then we have Girls, Girls, Girls. All right, and then what we're going to do is, when I'm finished, we'll go over the list of soundtracks that still need to come out. All right, and then we have Kissin' Cousins. So from there, we go to Viva Las Vegas. This is a difficult one to obtain. I think this was like the 5th FTD album released. Those first 10, really, really hard to get. Or they can be expensive. They can be pricey. All right, and then we have Rostabout. Some great pictures on these alternate covers, too. Alternate takes, alternate covers, really great stuff. Here's an album that never had an album, Tickle Me. Songs were featured on an EP. All right, but here we have an album pressing. Same with Easy Come, Easy Go. So one really cool thing about these FTD releases is a lot of these soundtracks that never saw album releases in the past now do have album releases. But the print run on these are not extravagant. I don't know precisely how many of these that they make, but if I had to guess, I would guess that there are less than 5,000 of each out there, maybe even less than that. But again, I'm not entirely sure. If someone has more specifics of how many of these they press, that would be fantastic. I know, for example, like the numbered ones from Moody Blue and was it Loving You? Not Loving You. King Creole. Those were numbered. I remember when they initially stated that they were numbered editions, they were only supposed to be limited numbered editions of, I believe, up to 1,500. But yet each of my copies had numbers that were greater than 1,500. So I don't know how accurate that statement was. All right. And then last but not least, this FTD album collected the last 4 movies that Elvis had filmed. Now, we are not counting the documentaries, That's the Way It Is, or Elvis on Tour. Okay, but this one has the songs from Live a Little, Love a Little, Charo, The Trouble Girls, and How to Get Into It, and then Change of Habit. So, and like I also said, Blue Hawaii was the very first FTD LP. So that is out there also. All right, now the ones that have not been released on a soundtrack LP. Looks like we have 14, and this is what we came up with, or what I came up with. All right, so we still need For Love Me Tender, which was his very first movie. Loving You. Now, Flaming Star would be very difficult. That I can't imagine that they're going to make up a full album out of that. There's really no way to. Same with Wild in the Country. Unless there's enough outtakes, possibly. Who knows? Follow That Dream. It Happened at the World's Fair. Fun in Acapulco. Girl Happy. Harem Scarum. Frankie and Johnny. Paradise, Hawaiian Style. Spin Out. Double Trouble. And then Clam Bake. Gonna have a clam bake. All right. And that's it. So here's your list of the Elvis movie soundtracks that have not been released yet on FTD. Here I showed you the ones that have been released on album soundtracks through FTD. And I don't know. That's pretty much it. So if you would like, you can leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. These FTDs, man, they're something. They sound great. They are really cool to have, I think. But depending on the particular album, a lot of these pressings are in very high demand, very hard to get, which then, of course, drives up the prices. So if this is something that you are looking to get into, be prepared, be patient, because again, you're going to find stuff out there that you're looking for, but you may not like what people are asking for it in order to buy it. So, you can always look on eBay, and I have to be honest, I really don't even know where else to look at this point as far as the secondary market goes. I mean, of course, there's Discogs as well, but I think the best bet is if these FTDs are something you are interested in, is to try and get in on the ground floor when they are being offered through the website. Because again, I know it's subjective, but for a double LP, these have always, in my opinion, have been kind of expensive. I mean, when they first started coming out, if I remember correctly, I believe it was $40 for the double LP. Now we're up to about $50 or so, and that's not including tax and shipping, of course. But they're not going down in price. They just continuously keep going up. So I don't know. I'm going to stop rambling, but I do appreciate you watching. I hope everybody's doing well. If you would like, you can leave me a comment. Hope you enjoyed this video. Be good to yourselves, be good to each other. Take care, everybody.